All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster Presents Deep Dives with Owen and Gaius. What's up, buddy?
What's up, man? I know I pushed it back a little bit, but good to be back and recording. I know it's a Thursday, so it's a little bit off our normal schedule, but I'm excited for today. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I am too. So this is episode 5. Yes, we usually record on Monday. We're recording Thursday today. It worked out because I got to miss work, and that's never bad. And of course, like I we were still recording in the same week that we normally record. The episode's just gonna
Yeah.
drop a little later than normal. But what I realized though, because of how it's dropping, it drops like sometime, I mean, either Monday or Tuesday. They're still working out when they want to release it, and then we don't record next week because that's an off week. But
Yeah.
then like the week after that is like a normal week. But the way the episodes will drop, there will be this will be the only week I think where there'll be two like in a row based on how they're like being released. So
Yeah.
that's good. That's cool too.
That's
Um,
cool. Yeah.
so you know what? It all worked out in the end. This new scheduling that we did, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I do look forward to doing it on Mondays because like most of us like coming off of the weekend, like we all have like a case of the Mondays, like
Yeah.
either it's work or
Feels like
something.
a drag.
Yeah, but I look forward to doing this, and like thankfully I have two shows to do. So like I got to do our main show with Jackson on Monday, and that was really good. And then I get to do this today, so like it's pretty awesome. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, and it was funny. You texted me too, and you said you didn't tell Jackson what we were discussing today. So it was like you're gonna have to set a Google alert or like a calendar notification or something because he asked during the show. You're like, I'm sorry, man, I can't say it.
Yeah, so like unfortunately, like I've had a bad habit, like because that like he's a part of the team, so it's like oh like he should know like
Yeah.
what we're doing, even though he hasn't been on the episode yet. But then I was like, well, maybe he like likes to guess. But like whenever we have this whole like discussion about what we watch, and it happens to fall on this week, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, and I watched something else, but I can't tell
I
you
watched
yet.
blank.
Yeah, yeah. And he gets like not frustrated, but he's like, oh, like I kind of wanted to know. And like I do it every single time. And what I realized after texting you, I was like, I could tell him after we're done, but I always forget. Like I
Yeah.
just keep I constantly forget. So I only remember right when we're in the middle of like, oh, what did you watch recently? And then I'm like,
Mhm.
psych, I can't tell you this week what one of the
Yeah.
things were.
That's
But I think
hilarious.
but I think he kind of likes to be a part of the guessing game. And and actually I can say this today because we're recording Thursday. We always like put clues out about what the movie is. I will tell
Yeah.
you that I put the clue out twice, right? And I will say the first clue was like because of the way I worded it, it kind of like was misconstrued as like it could have been another movie. So then
Yeah.
I reworded it today, and they still picked the same movie. The majority of people kept picking Cabin in the Woods. I'm just gonna say that that's what they think it is,
Yeah.
and
That's what
they're
I figured
all
when you made the question. I was like, we kind of already talked about Cabin in the Woods. Maybe they thought I was going to pick it for our deep dive and
yeah.
that kind of thing. So I was like,
And,
a little bit of a red herring there, but
a little bit. Like, I mean, the one thing that's similar with that movie and the movie that you picked is they were both delayed. So I guess I can see where they thought it was Cabin in the Woods, but like
mhm.
it was the most guesses that we've gotten, and they were just all wrong. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to like move on to the whole like picture scramble, and then maybe they'll get it.
Yeah.
Then, but that was really fun. And I don't know, like I feel like I make them too like easy sometimes, and when people get them on the first guess, I'm like, all right, well, that's not
That
fun.
was a yeah.
And then I
Yeah,
like make them
that's definitely
too
tough.
hard.
I mean, when you're trying to find, you don't want to find some like hard, super like indiscreet and some sort of fact that no one's ever going to guess because then it's just not
Yeah,
even worth it. But you also don't want to pick something that's like this won the Oscars and it's just like Google search or something like that. That's like an
yeah,
easy win.
yeah. There's certain times where it's like with the clue for this one, I was gonna say this horror comedy, whatever it was, this horror comedy, and I was gonna put the year in there. I was like, I have to put the year in there, right? That's because they'll be like, that could have been like any year that this happened. I don't know. I
Yeah.
figure it's more fun if it's hard. Because then I feel lame when you guys get it right away off the first guess. Like when it was Igby goes down, several people right away like got it on the first guess, and I was like, oh well, shit, I should have made that harder.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but I'm
I think
glad
the
that no
last
one
ones that you've had have been pretty good.
pretty good. Yeah, and as of this recording, no one has gotten it yet. So maybe
There we go.
when we will drop the next clue, they'll get it. So before we get into like what we've been up to and what movie you chose this week, I did this offline with you already. We got a review
Yeah.
specifically about our last deep dive episode, and I wanted to share it on here, and because I just thought it was just a really nice thing to really say, and like it was kind of something that we were kind of striving for when we were like talking about certain movies and stuff. So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
read it from Scott NYC 45. This is left on Apple Podcasts, and it says, kudos to the Better Luck Tomorrow episode. Listen to the deep dive episode about Better Luck Tomorrow, and not only did it take me back to first seeing the film in 2003, I also thought Owen and Gaius had a mature and insightful conversation about the importance of the film's representation with its cast. Different ethnic groups really do need to see themselves more in mainstream movies, and I like that they didn't talk down to the listeners while driving that point home. Solid episode, and I will be listening to more. So that was really, really nice. It kind of, when I read it, it kind of cut deep in like the best way possible.
Yeah.
Uh, that someone even took the time to even write all that out. I thought that was really cool. So
I
thank you,
agree.
Scott NYC, whoever you are. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for leaving that review, because I told Jackson we were talking about it when we recorded our episode. Like the main show has like a structure. We have to like we don't plan what we're gonna say, but we know what stories we're gonna talk about. So there's
Exactly.
like, you know, and with this, I think like we never fully discuss like, all right, do we want to hit certain beats about the movie and talk about this thing, or should it be more organic? And I think the unspoken thing was like the conversation should just be organic and not planned at all. So
Yeah.
that conversation that we
I mean,
had about Better Luck
we
Tomorrow,
kind of didn't really even like decide to talk about it. It just like is part
right,
of the movies. So no matter what, we
right,
had to talk about it. And when you sent that over to me, and I got to read the review, and we even got to discuss it a little bit, it's like
yeah,
I really felt proud because there's so many different ways that we could have addressed that. And I mean,
yeah,
from anything from the line of just completely glossing over it to,
yeah,
like you said, like Scott said, like talking down to the listeners, like, oh, you should have heard this or something like that. So just to see that review and to feel that what we were bringing across and what we were trying to get across actually came out
yeah.
the right way. So that just made me feel really good.
Yeah, it made me feel really good too. I mean, we like, of course, like I said, like the whole our discussions aren't planned about the movies. I know like some people will like to do that, like, you know, like we need to talk about this part and that part, and that works for some people, and I think it works well for a lot of people. It has seemed to work best so far for us, whether it's been this or even when you were on the old show, to not really like plan exactly what we're going to talk about, like because I
Yeah,
think because we just know each other, and it's just easier to like
very much.
I could tell that you could have an adult conversation about it without me like being like, all right, I'm gonna bring this up before we start, and like you
Yeah.
being like, all right, cool. So you know, I think that's why the review kind of means a lot, because we it definitely wasn't a planned discussion, and even when I listened to it back, I was really happy that we had that discussion away about that movie that didn't feel
Yeah.
like it was talking down to people.
It was great.
And yeah, so I thought that was really good. So thank you so
I
much,
think it
and
was my favorite
always,
episode so far.
yeah. I mean, in hindsight, it kind of was. And, you know, I think before that, it was the killing them softly one, which was like the one that was right before. But
The one before.
but I think it's like a testament that it's getting better. I guess like the
Yeah, I
conversations are getting
totally
better.
agree. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it wasn't until I re-listened to it, and I listened to it again after that review to be like, all right, like really make sure like how that conversation went, and it was something that we didn't gloss over, and it was something that we talked about like adults, and I thought it was, yeah, I thought it was good too, and I'm glad that other people were able to pick up on that. So thank you so much,
Mhm.
and as always, like keep reviews coming, whether they're good or bad, because they help. Constructive
Feedback is
criticism
always
is key.
yeah,
so so
always
yeah,
always appreciated.
yeah, and we want you to be a part of these discussions too, which is why the deep dives are fun, because like you know, especially if it's a movie you really like that we've touched on. So yeah, hopefully we'll get more of those in the future. But before we get into your movie that you picked, what should we catch up on with you? It's been a bit. I haven't actually seen Owen since Super Bowl Sunday, I think was the last
Yeah.
time I saw him.
Yeah,
uh
so I've been pretty busy, and that's the reason we're recording here on Thursday. My parents were actually in town this most recent weekend, and if you're a part of the Erickson family, it's pretty much go go go, and activities are a must. My parents do not like to sit around and hang. I mean, they do, but especially when I'm hosting and I'm having them over, it's more of a, hey, like what are we doing this weekend? And
Yeah.
so we did a hike, we went bowling, we did some fun activities. And then pretty much right after that, I was in a conference for work. And so I was actually just in Newport Beach, just got back today. So had a 3-day conference that I was at, which actually I've been kind of going as well for the
Yeah.
last, gosh, pretty much week. So it's good to be back home and settled and kind of get back to my regular routine. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to.
Nice. Yeah. I was not. Well, I was productive this week. I had a really busy work week writing wise, and that's been really good. I kind of I knew we had a holiday. I forgot about it on Sunday because I was gonna go home a
Mm-hmm.
lot earlier than went home on Sunday, and then was reminded by a friend that like, oh, like tomorrow's like President's Day. Do you get it off? And I was like, oh yeah. They said it's a light day, so yeah. I'll
It's a
stay.
sneaky
It's a
holiday.
sneaky holiday. It's a sneaky holiday. Yeah, it is. And yeah, I wouldn't have mattered to me either way. Like it's cool. I get the day off. Like whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine. But yeah. I did know that you were with your parents over the weekend. It was just funny because like I think the one text exchange we had was about the bowling alley, and I'm not going to share it on here because I don't think it's like I probably can't share it on here. But just know that he could ask me anything, and I won't find it offensive. And so it was really funny.
Oh,
That was our own text exchange about that.
you posted
But
on your Instagram story too. Did you say something about like there was something about Black History Month where you were
I
making
did.
you're like your friends can joke around with you as long as you guys know each other and it's cool and that
Yeah,
kind of thing. Gaius has been posting a lot of stuff for Black History Month, which has been great because it's not necessarily the typical. I mean, it's all relevant and everything, but when it comes from a business, it's all like very professional and
yeah,
corporate and PC and everything. So hearing it from your side on just like a story on Instagram is always good to hear, just kind of more of a colloquial take on like, hey,
yeah.
here's something that like that I want to share and want to celebrate
Yeah.
for February.
Yeah, it was all, and it's all been said, and it's all like funny. It's not supposed to be serious. Like you said, like some people
Yeah,
will post like historical like facts. I was trying to be funny.
yeah,
Most people get it. I've gotten a couple messages like, "Oh, you shouldn't do that during Black History Month." Right, right. If you can't take the joke, that means you don't know me that well, and like
yeah,
that's on you, I guess. It's all funny,
yeah.
but yeah,
I guess.
there was one about like your white friends can make certain jokes as long as they're like really good friends with you, and and they know you
Yeah,
because you know them, and you know like whatever joke they're making, they're not trying to be offensive. That's the point I was driving
yeah,
on that.
exactly.
And
Yeah, and I
yeah.
mean, I think even with all the stuff that happened this last weekend with like Tiger Woods and like
No.
his joke with Justin Thomas and stuff,
Yeah.
like honestly, his response was great. It's like, hey, listen, if I offended anyone, I truly am sorry, and that's not what I wanted to convey or how I wanted to come off. It was a
Yeah.
joke between friends. He didn't find it offensive if I
Offensive.
offended any. Yeah, I'm really sorry if that's the way it came off, but listen, we're friends, and it was a
Yeah.
joke, and that's kind of it. So I
Yeah.
there's different ways to take that, but that's I usually like to think that it's 99.9% of the time in good fun.
Yeah, the moral of the story is calm down, just have a good time, guys. It's not that serious.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
I think all of us have common sense enough to know to like when to be serious and when to not be serious. So like
Yeah. I
that's
can't imagine
kind of what
going
it
through
is.
life without a sense of humor. That would just
Yeah,
be very
all
dull.
that would be fucking dreadful. I think absolutely
Yeah.
awful.
That's why I don't surround
Uh,
myself with people that don't have a sense of humor. It's not fun.
yeah, that'd be awful. A bunch of Eeyores from Winnie the Pooh just constantly like, ooh,
Yeah,
constantly
little
just
Debbie
yeah,
Downers.
Debbie Downers. Other than that, I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantum
Yeah.
Media. Um, it it has like a 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not that bad. It's like it's entertaining. Is it like the perfect kickoff to Marvel Phase 5? No, but
No.
it's a setup movie, and I think they were like, hey, we haven't given like I don't want to call them the run because I like the Ant Man movies, but like I feel like of all the standalone ones, like his probably are perceived as like the lesser ones of
Weaker.
like all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they wanted to do one that was like kind of more serious with him, and also use his movie to set up what this bigger villain's going to do later. Um,
Of course.
so so it's a total setup movie, but I still thought it was fun. There are some like narrative issues and like. And of course, it's Marvel, and they throw in a lot of jokes, and all of them don't land. Some do, some don't. But they're major fucking ace in the hole that they have is Jonathan Majors as Kang. He's really good, like really, really good. And the whole time I was watching it though, I was like, oh, why is he like going to be such a huge threat later? And then there's a post credit scene that kind of shows why he will be. And he's like I said in the last show, I think he's going to be like a Thanos level threat or higher. Like he has the
Wow.
potential to be. Yeah, I think people are just kind of confused because they introduced him here, uh,
Hmm.
and getting beat up. He doesn't get beat up by Ant-Man. You have to see it. But, like I guess some people are like he couldn't take him out, so like why introduce
Yeah.
him in something like this? But it makes sense like if you look at it as a bigger picture. And I think some people are tired of looking at it that way. Like why can't you just make a movie that's it stands on its own without it being like oh like
Mhm.
this will make sense later or this is just set up for something
We're
bigger.
not in that phase of Marvel anymore. There's not really a standalone. Thor: Love
Nope.
and Thunder might have been one of the last ones, I
Yeah.
think. And even that had some like tie-ins and everything. But the I mean, once I saw the extended trailer for Ant-Man, I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit because like just in terms of like what the story is going to be about. Because from what I got, I haven't seen it yet, but
Yeah.
like just from what the story is, it's like, oh, I'm gonna make a deal with someone that in the quantum realm to get more time with my daughter back. And I was like, dude, you're literally doing something that no person would do. You just got her
Right.
back, like you were dead. Like there's just all of these like sort of like just the story of why he's putting himself in the situation. I was like, dude, even just from the trailer, I was already
Yeah.
getting frustrated with his decision making and his like lack of logic and so,
Yeah.
so that just in terms of the story, but I haven't seen it. I mean, I've seen 2.5 minutes of the trailer, so I really
Yeah.
can't say of what it's going to be like, but looks visually impressive.
It's like it's visually very interesting. I mean, I thought it was. I like the second one more of the three, but I mean, this one was at least it took a lot of chances. I'll say that. Like it's way different from the other two. Like it's like not even close to being the same. But and they like and I kind of wish from the trailers it looks like the stakes were raised a bit, and they are kind of, but it still kind of has that same kind of jokey family tone that like the other two had, and that was a
Yeah.
little disappointing because I thought like oh they're kind of gonna go serious with this one. There
Hmm.
was moments of that, but like not enough. But Michelle Pfeiffer had more to do in this one. She's probably like the main. She's like the main setup for like who Kang is and all that in this movie. And Michael Douglas is always reliable because he's Michael Douglas. And
Michael
Catherine
Pena
Newton.
back?
No, and that's what the movie. I need a
I'm not
I
seeing
need a
it.
recap.
I'm
I
not
need a
seeing
Michael
it.
Pena recap. I would
I'm
love
not
that. Would be
seeing
great.
it.
I know he's like the best thing about those movies. And then Catherine
Oh,
Newton is great as his daughter Cassie. She's really good. Like they're all really good. I just I think at this point everyone's expecting so much from them, and I also
it's a
think that
Star Wars thing now.
yeah, I also think
It's
certain
always going to
critics.
be not enough.
I know. I think certain critics now have like an anti like Marvel agenda at this point because
Yeah.
it like it's not that bad. Like to be like the some of the reviews I read, it's just like yeah, you can say it's flawed, but like some of the things. But yeah, you know what? Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I would just say if you
Yeah.
were like on the fence about seeing it because of that rating, like the audience score is 84%, so that should tell you that moviegoers are liking it a bit more than critics are. Um,
Yeah,
and
no,
then
100%. I mean, like you said,
yeah,
everyone is a critic nowadays, and so I mean, we'll see how the audience score pretty low too.
no, it's 84%, which is pretty decent.
Okay.
Like, and then like
Yeah.
it got a beat cinema score, which is kind of low for Marvel, but dude, the movie still made 120 million dollars over the weekend. So even when Marvel gets bad reviews, they still do well. They're like, I think they're invincible at this
It's gonna
point.
be all right.
Yeah, and then they're
It's
going to
gonna
be
be
just
okay.
fine on May 5th when Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 comes out because I'm pretty sure that will be
That one's gonna
pretty
make a
good.
lot.
That'll be pretty good, and you guys will be fine.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I watched was this horror movie called Skinamarink on Shudder, and everyone's been talking about it. Jackson wanted me to watch it because it's one of those like it went viral on TikTok as everyone saying it's the scariest movie they've ever seen. And then, of
Really?
course, when you go on TikTok, you realize that a lot of people saying that are like they're like 10, they're really young. like,
Yeah.
but a lot of people were saying it was made for. It's like it's described as like an experimental horror film. It was made for $15,000. Uh,
Wow.
it's like um, I was gonna text you to say that you should watch it. And I actually told Jackson this. Actually told Jackson this on the show while we were recording. I was like, "Yeah," I was gonna text him, and I was like, "Yeah, you should watch it." And then I deleted it because I was like, "Nah, I
You
don't think he's
deleted
gonna,
the
I
text?
don't think he's gonna like it. I don't think like
Oh my god, why?
it.
Why?
It's like you have to be like it tests your patience because like it's so cheaply done,
Ooh.
and most of it is like mostly dark, and like you're like waiting for like okay, what's gonna happen? And basically, the basic premise is that these two kids wake up and their dad is gone, and then like the doors and stuff and like windows in their house are starting to disappear. So like, and they're two little kids. You barely see anything. You barely see them. You mostly hear their voices and whispering, and like it kind of plays on like
So it's more of an
child.
audio, like an audio
Yeah,
horror.
like it's so cheaply made, but like it's like it plays on these like childhood fears of like when you're a kid, you're afraid of the dark, you're afraid of being left alone. So it kind of puts you in that headspace. And will say I watched it alone in the dark. I think that's probably the best way to watch it because you're looking and
Yeah.
waiting for shit to happen, and then all of a sudden there's just it doesn't have a ton of jump
Or
scares, but
see
there's
something.
yeah, you're looking up close, waiting to see something. All of a sudden, you hear something, and that freaks you out.
Yeah.
And like, it's amongst like the little like cinephile community that we're in. Like, people either really love it or they hate it because it's just so
So
like cheap. I mean, like it's
yeah,
hard.
I was
You
gonna
can
say
like
like
here's the
if
deal.
it's mostly waiting around and they're kind of in one setting, like where was even $15,000 spent?
Yeah,
Like,
He
do you
shot
even
it
get
in
to
his
see?
like
Is
child.
it like a set?
He shot it in his childhood home. Like he's from. It's like a Canadian horror film shot in his childhood home.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, like I feel like this. If this was like a short film that someone made in college, film school, everyone would be like, "Oh, this is so great." It's an hour and 40 minutes. I even said that it could have shaved off
Wow.
like they could have shaved off 40 minutes of it, and it would have been like a perfect hour long, like really good exercise in like how to make a effective like atmospheric like kind of horror movie. But it goes on for
Yeah.
too long,
Like a
and like
study.
that's why I said it tries your patience. I thought the payoff was worth it, but like it all but like I said, like I would recommend it to horror fans, which
I
is
just
why
love how
when I
you
was in the
deleted the
middle of
text. You're
yeah, I
like,
was in
I
the
don't
middle of
think he's
texting
gonna
you.
like it.
I was like, yeah, you should check this out. And I was like, no, I don't want to be blamed for
Like,
if he
nah,
thinks it sucks.
nah. That's
But
hilarious.
yeah. I mean, I know you'll pretty much give almost anything a chance, but I don't want to be responsible for it. So if you stumble upon it,
Yeah.
cool. Like if you decide to watch it on your own. Um, but yeah, like Jackson and I both liked it. A lot of people we know didn't.
Cool.
So it's like it's a mix. But I kind of applaud anyone. This guy made this movie for $15,000. I think it's made over $2 million at the
Hey,
box office,
that's a hell of a
and
return. I
it
would take that
is.
any day.
And I think it encourages anyone that wants to get into like filmmaking to like you could do something like this, and like whether or not like people are
You got
talking about
15
his.
G's.
Yeah, I know, right? People are talking about
It's
his
funny
movie.
because it's such a low budget, but when it's like, yeah,
It
you can make
is.
your own movie for like 20 grand, it's like, well, I don't have fucking 20
Like, I don't
grand.
have like 20 grand laying around. Um,
Yeah.
but like, it's still like I said on the show, like, yeah, there are people talking about his movie, good or bad, and that's that has to be something good. Like that means more people are gonna watch it to just see if it's like as good as people say it is or as bad as people say it is. And this filmmaker wins either way. So like, good for him. On that note, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was all of the watches I got in because I've been pretty busy. And I know you've been pretty busy, so I know you probably haven't had a chance to really watch anything either. Um,
Yeah. The only thing that I've watched is what we're about to talk about.
well, that's a good setup for what we're
Yeah.
about to talk about. So this week is
Perfect.
your pick.
It's my
Uh,
pick, finally. And I love how you say finally. It's
finally,
finally my pick. I only
finally.
had to wait a week and a half.
I know,
2
right?
weeks.
All right, so tell everyone what you chose for this week's pick.
All right, everybody. So this week I decided to stick to my 3 years, a 2011. This is a horror comedy. So I picked Tucker and Dale versus Evil. And it is, I mean, just the synopsis. It's two scruffy pals played by Tyler Labine and Alan Tudyk. Their backwoods vacation takes a bloody turn when ignorant college students mistake them for a pair of murderous hillbillies. And yeah, it was directed by Eli Craig. Budget was about $5 million. It was written by Eli Craig as well, distributed by Magnolia Pictures. And yeah, right now I don't have the box office right here, but it's got a 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, 7.5 on IMDb. I know most people that I know who've seen it have really, really liked it, and it
Yeah,
seems kind of like one of those fan favorites that anytime I've mentioned it, it's one of those good ones. But I absolutely love this movie, and the first time that I saw it, I just could not stop laughing. I thought that it was such a perfect like it was my, I wouldn't say introduction into starting to like a little bit more of that gore factor in
yeah,
some
yeah,
horror things, because I like the violence
yeah.
and some of that stuff, but to be able to take the comedy into it, and even just like with Cabin in the Woods, so to all the people who guessed that, like that was a great guess, but
Yeah.
like to take that, and I mean it literally starts the same way basically as Cabin in the Woods, some kids going on, college kids going on a trip,
Yeah.
and like it's just one of those movies that I really enjoy. And so I know that you were kind of starting to tell me about you seeing this again. I know you said you kind of saw it before, so I'd love to hear your opinions.
Right. So I did see this before, but I remembered when I watched it again on Monday that I think it's just something I threw on in the background, like it was just on TV. Like I saw the
Yeah.
title and I thought the title seemed kind of interesting, and I guess I
Hmm.
didn't pay much attention to it because like when I was watching it, I was like, I don't remember this, I don't remember that. So I
Yeah.
definitely had it on as background noise, I guess, the first time I watched it. Um, but it is very funny. I like, it's a send up to like all these kind of like old horror movies like The Hills Have Eyes or like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Deliverance a bit, where like in those movies like the kind of like freaky looking hillbilly rednecks are like usually the ones that are like you should be afraid of them. Like that is
Yeah.
what those movies kind of rest on, and like usually it's like either the young college kids are like that kind of stumble upon this like kind of weirdness like going on in this town or whatever. But like this movie in a very funny way flips that, and our two lovable hillbillies are just that. They're lovable and they're not freaky. They're awkward, but they're not
Yeah.
freaky. They're not evil.
And they're
And
so
it's
naive.
and they're naive. And it's actually the college kids, most of them in the group, who one in particular, who you should kind of be like afraid of, I guess. Um, and I thought that was like a really cool. Like it's so funny because it's such a simple premise to like flip that on its head a bit, but they do it in a really. It's basically a one joke movie, but they make it work for like
Yeah,
an
they don't
hour and
really
like
stray away
85
from it.
or an hour and like 25 minutes or hour and a half, like maybe shorter than
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I mean, I commend Eli Craig because like it is, like I said, just one joke, but there's different levels to that joke, and like
Yeah.
he's able to make it all work, and it also works because the cast is also very much in on the joke, and they get it. You can tell they get it, like the way
Hmm.
they're performing, and like I horror comedies are very hard to get right. It's a
Yeah.
really hard mix sometimes because sometimes like the comedy doesn't work, but the horror does, and then the other way around. Um,
Hmm.
I thought with this, like you said, like it is gory, but it's all played for like laughs. So like it's
Yeah.
and they're played and they all like every single fatality in this I laughed at every single
Yeah.
one, and I feel like they got better and better
They get
the more
really,
they
really
went.
good. They're so funny, man. They're so
They're really
ridiculous.
funny, and I just think I love that like it's just like you're watching like this like series of like like unfortunate events, and it's like
Yeah.
and like to make that work and like and to sell it really well. I just thought that was really cool. Like watching, I was like laughing my ass off like by myself watching it on Monday. It's
Yeah.
like I was like I feel like an idiot because I didn't pay attention to it before when I was watching it
Hmm.
the first time. But like yeah, this was like really good, and I just and I also was surprised. I mean, we'll talk about it later. Like when I went to go look up more about the movie, I was like, this might be a big hit with like horror fans, like people that like this kind of stuff. I wonder if critics
Hmm.
liked it. And the critics really liked it too, and it premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. Like it, I think they had bigger plans for it, and then like
Aspirations for it.
and I just don't think like people knew what to do with it, and that kind of
Yeah.
happens with movies like this. Um, but like, I mean, I would definitely say it's a cult classic today. Um, um, and uh, and that's actually I think that works out better for a movie like this. People
Yeah.
discovering it on their own.
Yeah, you put it perfectly, and I think that even just some of the way that, I mean, the screenplay is written and just the way that it's filmed too. I mean, it is just case in point, textbook definition of dramatic irony. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like we know exactly what's happening, and these characters just really are on the other side, and the dialogue flows so well with that, and that's one of the best versions of that is when um Tucker and Dale are trying to go find the kids because he just was playing board games, and she's like, "Oh, like no, you rest," because he wants to keep her there because he
Yeah.
wants to
Yeah.
flirt with her. And then
Yeah.
they're hiding behind the log, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll finish her." He's like, "Oh, I beat her
Oh,
so bad.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
beat her so badly." He's like, "Yeah, I'll just finish her off when I get back." And these kids are like, "Oh my god, they're gonna kill her."
Killer.
And
Yeah.
then yeah, just like even just those interactions between Tucker and Dale that are obviously completely
Innocent.
harmless, but
Very innocent.
but in the eyes of these kids who think that they're psycho killers, it just creates an absolutely hilarious scene. And I also love I didn't really think about it from this perspective when I watched it the first couple times, but
Right.
just the way it's filmed, like when it is a scene with just Tucker and Dale and you see their shenanigans and their friendship, and it's, I mean, even the music and sort of the tension is completely, it just looks like a regular like a TV show kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then when you switch to the view of the college kids, it's filmed like a horror movie,
No
and
movie.
it
Yeah.
has like that, like
Yeah.
I think there's even sort of like a gray filter a little bit
Yeah.
sometimes, and like just the way that it's shot of like how the cabin looks super creepy. And so
Yeah.
like they kind of flip back and forth between just different perspectives just on the film style, and I thought that was a really cool way to do it.
I thought that was cool too. So imagine this: everyone that loves horror movies, you've heard this setup before. You have like a
Hmm.
bunch of good-looking college kids. They're going camping in West Virginia. They stop at the
Yeah.
gas station, and this is when they encounter Tucker and Dale. And they immediately, I mean, especially the two girls and uh, Allison and oh, what's the other, the blonde hair girls? Yeah, not Allison's the main girl, played by Katrina Bowden, who I actually got to
Katrina,
interview once.
is it
For
Bowden or
or
Bowden
Bowden.
or something?
We're gonna go with both, just in case like one of us will be right.
Katrina Bowden, yeah, she is. Loved her on
You
30
were,
Rock, but she is
yeah,
just an
that's what I
absolute
was thinking
stunner.
about.
She's a
Yeah,
great actress too.
yeah,
But yeah, Chillon Simmons plays Chloe, I think is the
so
other one.
yeah, so they are immediately like freaked out by them, and like, and if this was if this was The Hills Have Eyes or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Cabin Fever, like you would be right to be freaked out by them.
Hmm.
But you know, the movie already sets up this really like, because I also felt like the movie had a lot of heart. It picks up this whole like notion of like you can't judge a book by its cover, and it starts off that
Yeah,
way with like you know, he thinks that she's pretty, of course, but he's like
yeah,
so shy and doesn't even like know how he can talk to her. And I just
yeah.
love like I love when he like tells him like he needs to
He
go over there and
walks up
talk
for
to
the
her.
first time.
Yeah, but he had like, what did he have in his hand? He had like
He has a scythe in his hand.
his hand,
Like
yeah, while he's going
a
to
giant scythe,
while
and
he's
he's
trying
like,
to
just
talk to
smile
her.
and laugh. You
Yeah,
going camping?
you going
Ah,
camping?
just like
And they're
creepy
like,
laugh.
get the hell away from us! Like, yeah, so like, so that's the
And the other guy
general
just
like,
comes in. He's like, "Hey, get back, man!" And he like
yeah,
throws his fists up.
yeah. There and like, and what's funny too is that these college kids. I mean, even Allison, I guess, is a type, but like, if you've seen movies like this, like there's every kind of stereotype exists within one of these like college kids. I guess we can call Allison like the innocent one. She's a nice one.
Hmm.
Chad, I mean his name is Chad, so he's an asshole. But like,
Yeah,
like I've
the
never met a
jock.
nice, I never met a nice Chad in my life. So like they all kind of fit, and there's even like one black dude. Like I mean, like so there's that. Uh, but it like
Who
kind of
doesn't
like
die first?
who doesn't die first. So thank you also for not like giving into that stereotype as well.
I think he
So
actually
but
dies last or
yeah,
second to last or
well, I
something.
know. I'm trying to remember. It's hard to tell in that whole chaotic last, like when the start, like when the cabin stuff catches on fire. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, like so that's like the general setup, and things go awry. So actually, Chad tells this whole story about the Memorial Day massacre, which will like become like a
yeah,
more important thing later, where like these hillbillies attacked like a bunch of people, and it's supposed to be like in like with like all the times with these movies,
20
there's
years
always
ago
like
to the day of
to the
when they're
day.
there.
Yeah, and like in movies like this, there's always that creepy like campfire story, like so it's also kind of playing up on that as well. So like keep in mind, so these kids have already they've heard this story from Chad, so that's already kind of like in the back of their minds.
Hmm.
That doesn't stop them from going skinny dipping though, which is another fun horror movie
But
trope.
yeah, before you get to that, it's like that was my first sort of I mean, because this is super early on to the movie, and like
Yeah,
they kind of cut to the scene of where of the murders before,
yeah,
and I mean, it's gruesome. Like the first
yeah,
thing you see is the guy, and he throws the like the saw, like the
yeah.
circular saw, like straight into a dude's head, and
Yep.
then the girl who gets the machete
The
pushed through her
throat.
throat, and I
Yeah,
was like, oh my gosh, like this is pretty graphic, like
yeah.
straight off the bat, like 7 minutes in.
Like this is where we're going. This is
Yeah.
where we're going with this. Um, and then yeah, so they all go skinny dipping, and I don't know if I missed something because I was laughing so hard. The situation in which like Allison is standing up on like I guess the rock, I guess getting ready to go in the water, and
Yeah.
and then Tucker and Dale are like talking, and does he like he shouts out to her, and that's why like she falls into the
So
water.
basically, like they're sitting there, and they see the other kids, and
Right.
Tucker wants to get a better view, for
Yeah.
obviously to like see them skinny dipping, and
Yeah.
then Dale wants to he doesn't want to see. He's like, oh, I don't think they're gonna want us looking, and then they
Yeah.
see Allie, the Christina, sitting on the rock, and they just try and be quiet because they don't want her to notice them kind of seeing
Yeah.
it. And then she starts taking her clothes off, and so Dale covers his eyes. But then Tucker, I think, tries to like get him to look, and then Dale just shouts Tucker, like shouts
Tucker.
his
Oh
name.
yeah, that's his name. Yeah.
Tucker. And then she looks around, falls, hits her head. He's like,
Hits
"Hey,
her
when a
head.
pretty girl starts taking her clothes off, don't yell my name."
It's so funny. And so they end up taking her like to help her, but like to everyone else, it looks like they're like taking her to like kidnap her. And Shrew
Yeah,
like,
it's like they hit her in the head, and they're like, "Get her in the boat."
but get her in the boat. Like it's just funny how like it's just so like easily misconstrued, but like
And then
it's
they're like,
it
"We
all makes
have your
sense.
friend."
Oh yeah, and they mean it in like a way of like, hey, like come
They're
get
like,
her
"Ah!"
kind
They
of
just
thing.
start running away.
Running away, yeah, running away, and like that kind of sets up the whole again like series of misfortunate events that like kind
Yeah,
of
because then they
starts
take her
all
back
this
to the cabin, and they're like, wow, they kidnapped our friends, even though
right.
they're just trying to look out for her and make sure that she's okay. And because they all ran
Yeah,
off. So they're like, well, we got to take her back to the cabin, make sure she's good. And then yeah, it's just like they find the cabin, and they're like, oh, it looks so creepy.
yeah.
But I love one of the guys says, the first guy to die, he's like, guys, like, it's just a cabin, man.
Oh yeah,
Like it just looks like a cabin. He's like, what? Not every single guy is like a psycho killer, right?
yeah,
Like, why don't you go up there? Like, maybe I will. And then,
yeah.
and then he's like, well, I said maybe. I said maybe.
So I love like when because like when she wakes up, she's initially like a bit terrified, but
Oh,
like
of
you know,
course. The
because
dog
she
with the
thinks hey,
like the milky
the
eye.
one eye, yeah. But eventually she comes around. But of course, all of her friends are like, "No, we gotta go help her. We gotta go help her." Um, and I think the first death is after he cuts the beehive, right? Is that after the?
Yeah,
Is that like the first one?
yes.
So
Oh my gosh,
the
yes.
so that death
So the
is
whole
really
reason
fun.
they're going to the cabin is
Yeah,
to fix it up, and so they're obviously
yeah,
doing like a bunch of work and
renovations
stuff,
on
and
it,
so
and
they had
yeah,
yeah renovations on the thing. So they brought a bunch of equipment, and he's Tucker is chainsawing through an old log, and he
yeah,
saws right into a beehive. And
yeah.
so right as the guy's walking up to go and check
Why is
and be like,
walking
oh,
up to
like,
go check?
because he was probably just gonna knock on the door and be like, hey, like, is our friend here? Let's just to see if everything's
Yeah,
okay. But then he saws into the beehive, and he can't see anything. He's getting attacked by bees, and
by
so with
bees.
the chainsaw running,
Yeah,
he's like
waving
flailing it
it
around,
around
and he
wildly.
has like just, and so they all start running, just
Yeah,
completely getting out of there. And I love when their eyes meet because he thinks that Tucker's chasing him,
yeah, yeah,
but then he passes him because he's just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and they're like, wait, what? They're
What
like,
is going
what's
on?
happening?
Yeah,
Runs straight into a sort of pointed, sort of
he gets like
spearish
impaled by
fallen tree,
tree.
impaled
Yeah,
by a
yeah,
tree. But I actually didn't really notice it because like there was a bee that landed on his nose like right before he died. And
yeah,
I
yeah.
think you can like in the way his eyes sort of like move back and forth. I think he's like he gets it. He's like,
I think he got
oh,
it then. I think he got it then too. That
yeah.
he wasn't
He
trying
was
to
just
attack
kind of
him,
like, oh, he's like, oh, like
and then he
this is
died.
nothing. This is nothing. He was getting
Yeah.
stung.
So like
But
the
yeah, so that was
reason
the
why
first death.
the reason why the beehive thing is so funny to me is because the way that he's just waving the chainsaw around all
Just flailing it around.
wildly, and it's because he's getting stung by bees to the face. But like, if you're a horror movie fan, there's something called like the like chainsaw dance and like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that's how Leatherface like runs around and like basically is like chasing after like his victims in those movies. So like
Yeah,
as a horror fan, you're watching it like, oh, I get what they're doing, and this is really really funny. But then
yeah,
also just like like I said, it's one joke, but like layers to that one joke, and they make
yeah,
it work. So like I just thought that was really cool. Like if you were like a horror fan, you know exactly what they're alluding to and what they're like getting at. And
yeah.
that's why I thought that scene was like really like just absolutely fucking hilarious. And and I love when he got back to the cabin and he was like, I think he was just like, when you say afraid of bees or just allergic to bees too, because he was like running like
No, he was just like you guys are just playing board games. We came here to work, and then he's he asks Dale to help him with the rest of the stuff, and
oh yeah,
I think that's when like I think they start digging a pit,
oh
and
yeah.
Dale starts or Tucker starts working like throwing some of the chopped up logs in the wood chipper,
Yeah.
and then the college kids find find the dude. They're like, they left him here as a message.
Yeah, like,
Like they
it's like
left his body here.
sacrificial message.
Yeah,
So
but that's when Chad starts to kind of go a little bit off the rails. I mean, we saw it originally before they went skinny dipping. We saw Chad kind of like he's like, hey, like we're cut from a different cloth. Like, don't act
oh
like you're like
he
you
gets
can
weird
drop
with
the act
Allison. He gets really
acting
weird with
better than
Allison.
anyone. It's like really just kind of making some serious and aggressive advances towards her, and she's just like, nah,
Yeah.
like, I don't really want to be a part of that. But you can see, and it's, I mean, I think the guy who did the acting for that, gosh, what's his
Yeah, let me
name?
look at
Which is crazy
that.
because he looks
Jesse
infinitely
Moss.
different now. Jesse Moss. He looks like an
Yeah.
accountant that would work at like a like now. He looks like
Yeah,
someone who works
I just pulled up a
Deloitte.
picture of him. Yeah.
He looks so different now, but
Yeah.
in that role, he's really convincing. I mean, it's the memorization of the lines and his inflection is just incredibly good.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you can start to see once they find the guy's body, he's like, it's us versus them. Like no one gets a chance like this and ever
Yeah.
in life. Like he's ready to start fighting and killing people, like pretty much
Yeah.
straight off the bat.
Yeah, and there's also characters like that in other horror movies like this too. There's always one that's like slightly unhinged and like they seem seemingly normal at first, and you realize they're just as crazy as. And that's what I thought that was. They did this really well too because that I mean, what he was trying to say, like he was trying to say that they were freaky, they were weird, they were crazy, but I mean, himself was just as, if not crazy, he was crazier than what he was perceiving them to be. And then he was also kind of making his friends like almost like that too by like kind of
Yeah.
rallying them up to like go after them. But yeah, I thought that guy was really good too because he effectively played an asshole really well. But also, it's
Mhm.
also a kind of a joke version of what that character is supposed to be. So
Yeah,
like
of course.
so he played like I thought he really understood the joke and really played it really well. While he
Yeah.
was yeah, I thought he was really good. But yeah, the whole sequence with like from the digging of the hole and the wood chip, that whole sequence there is probably my favorite sequence of the movie
It's
because
so funny, man.
that's when it's also again like their perception of what's going on and then like the college kids perception of what's going on. It becomes
Oh my
fully clear
gosh, man.
how they're like seeing two completely different
It's
things, but you
just so
understand why. Because like
yeah.
because she's helped at this point, she's like, she's befriended him and like she's like, she doesn't feel like she's being
I
held
grew up on a
captive.
farm, like I can
Yeah, I grew up on
help,
the farm. I
like that
get this.
kind
I
of
can help.
thing.
Let me help you dig this hole. And then
And also he
yeah,
finds common ground with her. Like he starts to
right.
find common ground with her. Like he's never really talked to a girl before, but it's like, hey, if you've dug an outhouse hole or a shithole, like
Yeah.
like they said in the movie
Oh
before,
yeah.
then like we can kind of get along. And now I have
Yeah.
some commonalities with you that we can discuss, and that kind of breaks down his a little bit of his nervousness, which is good. I mean, it's what progresses
Yeah.
the story and that stuff together. But
Yeah.
gosh, just because Chad like rallies everyone together, just he's like, all right, we got to find weapons and then kill them.
Kill them.
And so
So like,
basically, yeah,
yeah. So like they're actually digging something practical for their home. The college kids thinks that they're
yeah.
making her dig her own
They're like,
grave.
that sick fuck is making him digger a grave.
Which like also like and I'm like laughing my ass off because like yeah it would look that way I guess
It
to like
does.
to the outside looking in, and then of course he like knocks her in the head accidentally and
With
like
the shovel.
with the shovel and she just falls in, and like
Yeah.
and then from there it just gets like so like out of hand again,
Yeah.
like all over. I mean like I was crap. I mean I think I was so surprised because I didn't look at how long the movie was. so it was like
Yeah.
moving pretty quick, and I was like, these
It moves
kids are
pretty
like,
quick. It
I
doesn't
was
really
like,
feel like an hour and a half. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, these kids are like kind of getting off like really, really, really fast.
Pretty quickly. Well, I think
Um,
even Katrina Bowden was like, how long was I out? Because like
oh,
all of these things are happening.
happening
It's like,
like while
wait,
she's dead.
how long was I unconscious for? Because like, wait, now like 4 or 5 people have died. But like, yeah, I just love like because so one of the guys tries to attack Tucker, who's going to the wood chipper,
Wood
and he
chipper.
just dives basically head first to try and stab him with this tiny little pocket knife, which would have given
That
him
was
like a little
hilarious
bit
too.
of
It
yeah,
was
the
just
little
like,
tiny pocket knife, but just dives head first into the wood chipper, and
yeah.
then obviously jams it and gets half his body ripped up. And I just love the, "Are you okay?"
Oh yeah,
As he
and like,
asks.
and then like Tucker's like trying to like get him out, which is kind of
Yeah,
pointless at this point. But from
yeah,
like their perspective, it looks like he's like basically jamming him into it, and like you just see
yeah.
his legs like flailing.
And
So
they're
like,
like, "Oh my god!" Yeah,
yeah, that was I was dying, dude.
just the
It was-
perspectives of what they think is happening is so funny. Oh my god.
yeah, and like, and I love like once they like kind of come to like after that whole thing is over, when they were
And
trying to
they're
like
talking
because
back in the cabin.
and back in the cabin. So like, of course, the kids have their idea of what's going on. Like these are
Yeah,
basically led by Chad though. Like these are weird like hillbilly fucks. They just want to kill people. Blah blah. Blah.
yeah.
Like you said, they left that first kid as a message to us. It's like, and then when he's like when they talk on their side, like on Dale and Tucker's side, when it gets discussed, like they think it's like a suicide pact.
Suicide
And,
pact.
and I was just laughing
like,
because it's a ridiculous like idea, right? And the way that he paused is kind of like, yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah.
cool, like
Well,
that's
because they both kind of come separately, and he's like, I just had some college kid dive head first into the wood
wood
chipper.
chipper.
Just- and then he's like, wait, what happened to you? Are you okay? He's like, some guy just impaled and died right on top of me.
And like it was funny that the suicide pact like theory is like is ridiculous, and I think like I think that's the joke too, because the way he reacts to it, like okay, cool, like we're gonna go with
Yeah,
that,
I
I
mean,
guess.
3 of them are dead now, so
But he was like, I think that's what they're doing, and then like, and of course, you know, she's knocked out and can't confirm or deny if that's what
course.
they were really doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was so funny because like I think together those guys are just hilarious, and like the just moment that moment pause where he just like I think they're like in the suicide pact, and like that pause of like
Yeah.
thinking about it and being like, it sounds dumb, like okay, whatever, yeah, we'll
Yeah,
just go
but
with
no,
that.
yeah, that's gotta be what it is. That's
We'll just
gotta
go
be
with
what
it.
it is.
Um,
Yeah. So,
yeah, I
but
thought
then,
that's
so
hilarious.
one of the kids had went to go get the cops
Yeah.
before, because he was one that drove him up there and drove the truck. So, as they're trying to kind of get rid of these bodies because they know, well, at least Tucker knows what it looks like because they're like, hey, we're gonna call the cops. It's like, well, we got a bunch of dead people around here, and like we're gonna say that they just killed themselves. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna go
Yeah.
over super well.
Like,
But then the
well,
cops
no.
come. The cops come, and then my favorite line of the entire movie is just they're both holding a leg of the guy who jumped
Oh,
into
yeah.
the chipper, and the cop's like, he's just looking at him, and then Tucker just says, "We have had a doozy of a day." That is the best line in the
Yeah,
entire movie, and I
it's
still
so
like.
funny.
I think about that sometimes. It's like, wow, it's been a doozy of a day.
Doozy of a day.
sometimes. It's just so good with like a half, like often half person right
Yeah,
next to them. Gosh, it's the
and
best one.
it's great too because like the college kids wait in the car while the cop goes to talk to them. So again, you have this like perspective of like what they see and what's really going on. And so
Yeah.
the cop openly decides to like go into the house because he's like, you know, the girl's in there. She like, you know, she can like explain everything, like whatever. Well, she,
before that, like, they're explaining it, and
and it's
the
like,
cops like, they're like, wait, so these guys just started killing themselves? You know how stupid that sounds? He's like,
No.
well, we still have one in our house. He's like, you have a conscious girl in your house? Yeah, she's in my bedroom.
It's in my bedroom.
just digging their own grave.
Digging
He's like,
more.
well, you're gonna have to show me that.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to show me that.
And so he goes in the house, and then they're like freaking out, like, "Oh, why'd he go in there? Don't go in there!" Like, of course, like any other like horror movie, like thinking like something's
Yeah,
gonna
like,
go
don't
wrong.
go in there. Don't go in
Don't go
there.
in there. And what's funny is that they're right. Something does go wrong, but not what they think.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, like earlier, because they're doing like so many different improvements on their cabin, and once he leans up against one of like the beams or whatever, and it like
There's a broken
collapse
beam that has like
beam,
some nails that it's like a booby
and
trap basically.
yeah, and then he gets like I don't even know how to describe what hits his face, like
He also gets impaled, but like he just basically
like
gets a bunch of nails shoved through his
yeah,
forehead and skull, and
yeah,
just from this broken beam that swings down,
and then he
and
comes like stumbling out, and of course they're
stumbling
like,
out of the house.
and of course the college kids are like, oh no, like they got him too, and then like he's trying to
Yeah,
get in the car, and they're all like freaking out, like it's like a total like real horror movie moment, but it's just so funny because like we know
yeah.
exactly what's happened and what's going on, and that's
Well,
what
and like the
that's
bimbo girl's like, the bimbo girl's like, they fucking killed him.
damn yeah. She has some really funny lines too. I mean, I actually thought like every one of them, like I said, played all their parts really well because like it's seemingly they have to play some of that stuff kind of straight because like you
Yeah,
can't like when you're in like a satire or a parody of something, you can't like really necessarily act like you're in one because it's like oh like
no, of
kind of
course,
gives the joke
yeah.
away. So that's why I thought they were
Well,
all really good.
yeah, but like there are some funny lines that are in there, like when Chad's being super, he's like, "Hey, it's us versus them, and
No,
like one of us has got to go." And he's talking to the bimbo girl, and
yeah.
he's like, "And if you don't think that you can do that, maybe you deserve to die." But then the next best line is the black guy just goes, "That's fucked up."
That's what that's fucked up.
That's fucked up. That's fucked up, man.
Oh god, I'm glad you
Just
reminded
like
me of that. That was
so
funny.
matter of
It's
fact, just
it's also
point blank. Oh,
it's
it's so
also
good.
such a typical like token black person line in movies like in horror movies like that.
Yeah,
There'd be like one
yeah,
person that would like say shit like that.
yeah.
Um, God, that was just so funny. Like it's just a lot of it is just this. Like I said, how they're able to make this all kind of work really well.
Hmm.
Uh, this whole like basic premise of like misunderstanding everything um
Hmm.
on several occasions. Like I don't know, I just
Yeah,
thought they handled that like
it's
so
yeah, it's really just like I mean it is like you said the same joke kind of over and over again, but they do it in such different ways like that are the resourcefulness of the hillbillies. Like, hey, we really got to leave a note. All right,
yeah,
well, don't really have anything. All right, well, I'll just use this hatchet. So it's this really like
yeah,
like rough and aggressive looking. We got your friend. Like,
yeah,
like that obviously is not like what their intention was, but it really is just a complete misunderstanding on both sides that turn into a lot of really funny lines and a lot of really funny situations that yeah, but
yeah,
I think that like what the actual end kind of like what happens at the end and why you realize why Chad is acting like
yeah.
that is actually pretty dark. Like
It is
if you
pretty
think
dark
about it.
too because they kind of like they set it up with like I mean he's already been like creepy, kind of like off the wall the entire movie. Um
Yeah.
and you kind of start to see it even more when they're able to like kidnap Tucker and then like he
Yeah.
cuts his like he two
Fingers
fingers
off.
off and then like they send those back to Dale or whatever. I also love when when like when she the girl Alice is the one that goes outside because at this point she's woken up and he's trying to
Yeah.
explain to her like your friends are like trying to do this to us blah 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 and she's like
Well, he
I'm
first
just
says
gonna
he's like, "Are your friends on any
what's oh
medication?" And that
Cation
they
oh
didn't
yeah
take.
because he's
Yeah,
still
because
rolling on the suicide pact theory and
yeah,
like and she's like no like my friends wouldn't do that and she's like all right I'm gonna go outside and like settle this whatever
he's like,
and
"Don't
she
do it,
goes
don't
out
do it."
don't do it and she goes outside and sees like the mess that is outside and then she sees like this little thing wrapped up and she grabs it and when she opens it it has the two fingers in it and she screams and drops it and I love that instead of him picking it up he just goes hey there's a note kind of like wrapped up with it and like
Yeah,
it makes her like kind of grab it instead of him being the one to like get it. I thought that was funny too, like because she's already like freaked out and grossed out by it. He's like, "Hey, like you should probably pick up that note."
well, they
And
also said, "Oh no, they cut off his bowling fingers."
you'll see your only fingers, yeah. But yeah, you realize that Chad is like fucked up then, and then for a movie that is like kind of all jokes, I thought they gave a pretty decent like explanation as to why he was a little
Yeah,
fucked up because it all goes
yeah.
back to that whole like massacre thing
Story
that
of the
they talk
Memorial
about.
Day massacre. Yeah,
Yeah, which is kind of which is kind of set up. You know, I thought it was interesting too because like once her other friends finally make it into the cabin, uh, she's trying to explain to them like, hey guys, this is a misunderstanding. These guys they're not bad. They're fine. They actually saved my life. And then that one girl was basically, I hadn't paid attention the first time I watched it. And when she was like, oh no, I was like, in my head, I was like, she's going to say she has like Stockholm syndrome. Like she's like befriending her kidnappers. And then I was like, God, again, another like unfortunate like misunderstanding. And she was like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, no, like I'm fine.
But,
like,
but also like it's been like an afternoon and a half, and like Chad immediately jumps to, are you really in love with him?
Love with him? Oh
like,
yeah, that's what
thinks that she would actually fall in love with this guy, and just completely goes off the rails, and like holds the hatchet up to her neck.
Yeah. But how we end up finding out about Chad's connection to that massacre, and I didn't know this scene was going to necessarily work, but I loved how like she basically is like has Delson on one side, Chad's on the other,
the therapy session,
and sets up this like therapy session, and it's like, okay, now you tell things from your perspective first, and then you tell things from yours, and then like basically we'll kind of like meet in the middle, and it was so wonderfully like awkward that it made it funny.
It was so awkward.
And then she plays it too. She's playing it straight, and that's what makes it funny. Like you could tell that like to her, like this is a very meaningful, like I'm trying to help. But the whole situation,
she's like, this is the profession that I want to be in.
Yeah. And like it's so like ridiculous. But yeah, then Chad explains like his whole connection to the massacre, which is why he like has this like really this huge disdain for hillbillies, which Dale tries to explain to him like, hey, I know you did. Yeah, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Well, the thing is, it's like she sets it up from like, hey, let's hear both sides of the story.
And
it could have just been like, hey, we saw you take our friend, and we thought that like you were trying to kill her. And Dale could have been like, hey, we just saved her life, and then you guys came and attacked us. Like that is the two sides of the story. But instead, it's Chad. He's like, yeah, my mom was the one who was with those people and got murdered. It's like, okay.
And then her reaction to it too.
And then it's like, all right, so let's hear your side, Dale. And he's like, I'm really sorry that happened. I didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Like all right, we're making progress.
We're making progress. I did love her reaction after he told that story, because she wasn't expecting all of that. And her pause too. I'm like, okay.
Okay, thanks for sharing.
Like turns and looks at him. And then his was like the best, like, matter of fact, like, well, I had nothing to do with that. I wasn't one of those people that did that.
Yeah. But then also he's just like, oh, I feel so much better. Oh,
yeah.
Like
how do you feel after that?
He's like benefiting from it.
Yeah, I thought that scene, probably my second favorite scene after the whole sequence with the wood chipper and Kurt getting knocked into the hole. It was just so wonderfully awkward. And like, I mean, I'm always a fan of like a strategic, like awkward pause on the line, and then like kind of like reacting to something and then delivering your next line. It's really good because that's kind of how like you feel after you hear his story. It's like, that was a lot, dude.
Wow.
Like way too much.
I asked you to share and you shared. Wow, thank you.
Yeah, you shared everything. And then of course things kind of all go. You would think that would help the situation, but it doesn't. Things all go to hell because
because they're looking in from the window and they're like. Also the bimbo, another great line. Oh, I could go for a cup of tea right now.
Oh yeah, so like the funny thing about this setting up this therapy session, how she starts it is she's like, hey, like let's just sit down. I'm gonna make like some tea. Like that's how she sets up this therapy session. And when they're looking inside, like the bimbo girl, like there's like, oh, they're like drinking tea, and she's like, I could
go for a cup of tea
right now. And the guy's like, what? Like
he's like, talk to me, woman.
Yeah. And like the logic for what they were doing, because they were sitting around calmly, and I thought it was funny. I don't think they came up with a reasonable explanation as to what they thought they were doing.
He's like they're being held hostage.
Hostage,
like sitting at the table.
They're sitting at a table. That was hilarious. Yeah, and then they come in like
guns
blazing, and then it's just again this like how people end up dying in this sequence is like. I mean, I'm trying to remember who got hurt and died first.
I think, I guess the only way I can say is the black guy. The black guy comes in with the weed whacker. And he goes straight towards Tucker, ducks,
and then he moves and he gets the other girl in the face.
And he's like, "Why didn't you duck?"
And then she's on the floor, like not dead too, by the way, like flailing
Yeah.
around on the floor. And then the black guy gets set on fire.
Fire, yeah. Well, first
And then
just his pant leg
it's
catches
just his
fire,
pant leg catches fire.
well, Tucker and Dale are still trying to help. They're like, "Hey, it's just your leg. Just pat it out."
So, and then they patted out like stop, drop, and roll, like that kind of. Oh,
Yeah,
and then like
just pat. It's just your leg.
and then the girl grabs, I guess what we assume is just like what moonshine or that baby
or something. Yeah.
So she thinks it's like water. He's like, oh no, don't do that. And she like throws it on him, and then he fully engulfs in flames. And then that's when they tell him like to stop, drop, and roll. Like, and then he dies. And then it sets off like there's like gas and shit in the cabin, and
yeah.
And then just
because like, when the girl who gets her face like cut up with the weed whacker, she's telling Tad like, "Hey, help me."
Oh, yeah, help me.
I don't know if I caught this line before, but he's like, "Get off me, you ugly bitch."
Bitch,
like,
yeah. Because like half her face is like gone.
Face is gone.
Gone,
like, damn, that's pretty savage, man. Like,
yeah.
She just got cut up. She just got cut up, man.
Just submitting the fact that Chad was an asshole. And yeah, the cabin ends up exploding because of the fire. The bimbo girl like lights a cigarette. Cabin explodes. Tucker, Dale, and Allison get out. I also love when like they get out. She's like, I think she says I'm an awful therapist, or I'm gonna be an awful
Maybe
therapist.
we can talk to him. No, I'm kidding. Just run.
And then Chad comes out of the fire looking pretty much like Two-Face. Like his whole like side of his face is like completely like charred off. But like what I like about this too, though, like because eventually it kind of leads up to like Chad ends up taking Allison, whatever. And like we've been building up to this whole thing about like Dale needing to be assertive, Dale needing to be a hero, Dale needing to like roast some balls, stick up for himself. Because even his friend Tucker kind of like picks on him a little bit, not in like a horrible way. He's like one of those people that like encourage him a lot, but like if he fucks up, he like kind of like picks on him a little bit.
But he picks on him in the kind of way where it's like, hey, this is why you don't get what you want, because you don't do what this like you don't take what you need. And kind of encouraging him in that way where it's like, he's tried to encourage him better before, but now it's like, hey man, like you're stomping all over yourself. You don't have any self-confidence.
Yeah. And I mean, kudos. I mean, I know it's a movie, like whatever. Like when Chad has Allison held captive and he's like trying to kiss her. He does kiss her actually. And it's just like they kind of just focus in on that one side of his face that's like all fucked up and burnt. And then if that wasn't enough, because he's basically like saying like, because she's like wasn't into it. Of course she wasn't. And then he like licks her face, and like again the tongue. It's all from the focus of this like one side of his face that's like completely fucked up. And it's like
charred.
So creepy and weird. And kudos to her for like being a trooper, I guess.
Going through that, like even acting that.
Yeah. I was like, oh god. But yeah, I like that they gave him like his hero moment to like save her.
A little badly choreographed fight scene, I thought, but
I mean, they didn't really have like a budget, I guess, to really like to handle like fight choreography. But I thought it was, I don't know, I thought the ending was cool. I actually liked when they looked more into like the massacre and stuff like that, when they like found the newspaper clipping that kind of explained things.
That's the dark turn where it's like, I mean, because Chad always thought that his dad was just like killed, like that she was pregnant with him before she escaped, and then they just murdered his father. Like obviously he did die, but like you find out that she was probably raped by her captors, and who was the massacre. So I think what they were trying to insinuate obviously is that he has some like psychological genetics, like the bad in him, but also like maybe some things that pass down like mentally, and some of his genetics and stuff like that. And so like he obviously has murderous intent in him,
right?
But yeah, I thought that was just like, because it seems like where they went to find that was where she was being kept.
Yes,
like her, like where she was being held captive. And like, I mean, I guess it's lighthearted, even though there's a bunch of death, but like that, like even just seeing it again recently, I was like, damn, like that's really fucked up.
It is. Like, so what do you think, like when movies like this, which are clearly like a little bit like, it's a dark comedy, like satire, almost like a parody of like these types of movies, but when they kind of like throw in something that like I don't want to say like serious, but like try to give the story a little bit more of like, because they didn't have to do that. They could have just played it all for
No.
jokes and been good with
Yeah.
that. But like, I think it's interesting when movies like that take the time to be like, all right, we're gonna like throw in some backstory,
Actually, like, yeah, and
like
also like drive the story and have an ending that's not like,
right,
oh, I guess it's over now.
yeah. Like I think it's interesting when movies like because they really don't have to, I guess. But I think it's interesting when they do. I mean, like that. It's not like necessary. Like we're already laughing. We're already all in on what you're selling
Yeah.
us. But I think it's kind of, I mean, it. That's why I think with like certain movies like this, with like critics and stuff, like like when they focus on the gore and like the comedy and the horror aspect, but when there's actually like a little bit of heart, and you get that between like the friendship between Tucker and Dale, you get that with the growing relationship between Dale and Allison. Like there is like a genuine like connection that kind of grows with them,
Yeah.
even though it's also kind of played to be funny, like we glossed over it, but I did like the scene that they had where basically when they're talking and he's like, well, why would your friends think that I would like basically like do anything like that to you, or why did you
He's
think I
like,
would
no
kidnap
reason.
you?
He's like, no, I know there is a reason.
Isn't and it was like because like when we saw you at the gas station, we all thought you were kind of like, and I thought it was interesting too.
Creepy.
I thought they were gonna play that longer where he would be mad at her, but then he was like he understood like why they felt that way.
I
I mean, he
think
was
that's so much
upset,
his own self-deprecation. Yeah,
right?
he's definitely upset, but he was just like, yeah, I know. That's why I didn't want to come up and talk to you. Like I knew I didn't have a
Yeah,
chance.
because he like basically said no, it's not your fault, it's mine, and then she even tried to take like the blame off it, like like basically I know you now, and I know that's not true. Like
You
I
are.
thought, yeah, it's like those little beats that they didn't have to put in there, but like it makes it more than just kind of like a senseless like horror comedy with like nothing going on, and like I think that's why certain critics and stuff will appreciate stuff like this a bit more than it just being like a slaughter fest with a bunch of
There's a
like
real story.
empty
Yeah, there's an actual
empty
story.
laughs. Yeah, and that's why I like what they did that with Chad, because I was like there has to be a reason why Chad's as weird. I mean, unless they're just using the one joke, because there are usually characters like Chad in these kind of movies,
Hmm.
and sometimes they don't really give them a lot of backstory. There, but like I'm glad that they did, but I thought they were just gonna play up the whole like trope of him being an asshole and being kind of like a little unhinged, because that can happen in movies like this. But I'm glad that they gave him like
Hmm.
a little bit more. I don't know if they were trying to make us feel sorry for him.
I
That
never
ship
felt
is
sorry for him.
that ship
He
had
was
long
crazy.
sailed. By the
Yeah,
time we figured out that like, oh well, that's why he's crazy. Well, too late.
yeah,
uh,
that was pretty much
uh,
it for me.
but yeah, I thought like I thought like the whole wrap up of it was really good and interesting, and Dale got to be a hero. Uh,
Yeah,
and
got
it
to be a
was
hero. He gets the girl.
he gets the girl. Tucker got, I guess not the right fingers back, right? He got like
That
one
was hilarious. Yeah, I think they find probably
one of his
um
fingers,
the
and then another
bimbo's
girl's
fingers or
fingers.
something,
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
or something
yeah.
like that. Yeah. So
So
he's got
one,
like a pink nail, and he's on a bunch of medication. He's like, I don't recognize that one. That one doesn't look the same.
yeah, I thought that was really funny, and he was like,
Yeah, that was
I
good.
thought that was really cool, and I also liked like by the end, like when they're uh they like have they confess their feelings for each other and they kiss, and then there's this whole situation where a hillbilly accidentally knocks out a girl in like the background, and it kind of seems like
Yeah,
it sets up this whole new kind of like, oh, like they're gonna have their, if there was another little movie they would have their own little like
yeah,
misunderstanding, and you could do this like all over again.
yeah.
But I love the callback
Like,
to
should we
that.
help? No,
No,
no, we're not
no.
gonna help.
And then basically, like, what they're gonna find their way, like kind of
Yeah,
like how
exactly.
they did. Um, I do want to speak on the chemistry between Allison and Dale, because I actually think uh they do play off each other really well. Like I actually
I
like they
think so too.
I bought into the fact that they like each other, and I give, I don't want to, I know we keep going back and forth what her last name is, Katrina Bowden. One of them is right.
Odin Bowden.
Uh, um, she has always been really good at playing up. She's beautiful, and but she's
Yeah.
always been able to been good at playing that up. And I think knowing that and then making that a part of like the joke and stuff that she does, because she's like that on 30 Rock. Like she's the dumb
Oh
blonde on
my
30
gosh,
Rock,
she's so good in
and
30 Rock.
she's hilarious on that show because I think she knows how to lean into it. I don't think she is just a pretty face. I think she gets it, and I
She
think
has a
she
great
got
sense of humor. I don't
yeah.
know if she helped do a little bit of writing on that show or anything either, but I mean, I think that she has a great sense of humor,
Humor.
and like you can really tell that her and Dale I mean, I think there might have been a little bit of improvisation there,
Right, I think
like with
so
just some
too.
of their interactions. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, and like I know she's always, I've always noticed that about her. Like, I got to interview her. She was in, I forgot the name of the movie. It was some shark movie from like 3 years ago, and they didn't release the interview because something happened with the movie, and they just like, you can hold on to it. I can release it now because it's been like 3 years, but I got to talk to her for like
Oh,
10 minutes, and she was just
nice.
very, very nice and like down to earth, and like she liked talking about like all aspects of her career, and she's done
Yeah,
like a lot of different things, and like I feel like she like doing a movie like this, you have to get it, and like, and I think it'd be easy
yeah, of
for her to
course.
fall back on being a pretty face, but like I think like she totally understood the joke, and I think everyone in the movie did, but
I think so.
it'd
I
be
think even the audience too and
yeah,
everything.
yeah, I think it'd be easy to kind of like label her like as the pretty face, but I think I there's certain things that she does and her certain line deliveries. Like I thought she was absolutely funny, even though she of all the people in it, she's the one that has to play it the most straight of the bunch. But
Of
I thought she
course.
was absolutely hilarious, and kudos to the entire cast actually because they were all really funny. And I think almost
For a
everyone
bunch
gets
of
a
faces that a bunch of people that I haven't seen
did
really again.
really no, yeah, I know, right? Like they've all kind of like yeah. When I go through the whole like where are they now, I'm gonna be like I don't know, somewhere.
No idea. Yeah.
um, but dude, this was like a funny. I mean, like I said, like horror comedies are hard. Like I love movies like this. Like Drag Me to Hell is another good example that it's kind of funny, but that's a little bit darker too. Um, the Evil Dead movies get like Evil Dead 2 is like funnier than the first one. The first one's more of a horror movie, and the second one's more of like a horror comedy. It's hard to get this right. Like it's really, really hard. Um, but I think this one did it well, and I like that it kind of plays on like all these like horror movie tropes without being like obvious that it's a parody. Like it's not like Scary
Yeah.
Movie, where like Scary Movie,
Yes,
it's obvious that
exactly.
they're like it's obvious that they're poking fun at like
Well, not where
certain
not
moment.
every joke hits. Like this one,
Right.
I laughed at pretty much every time they were trying to
Everything.
be funny.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
too. And then understanding without them saying like, oh look, this is what this means like in the horror movie that might be similar to this. They just let the joke
Hmm.
play and then let you kind of like figure out like, oh that's what they're trying to say and that's what they're trying to do. And like
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I've talked about with Jackson, like comedy sometimes is a hard genre for me to watch because like if the jokes don't land, it's like it's really awkward and not fun to
It's
watch.
really awkward and it's not fun.
Yeah, but this I
It
thought
gets
like
old pretty quick.
I would say like God, I mean I would go. I think all of the jokes pretty much land. I couldn't think of one moment where I thought like that wasn't funny. Like
No, yeah.
I either laughed out loud a lot or I at least chuckled at something.
Well,
And like
one of my favorite ones too is just like when they're looking in the cabin and like they see all the bones and Tucker's like, the guy who owned this must have been an archaeologist or
this is
something.
something. Yeah.
There's just like a bunch of bones and teeth hanging from the ceiling,
Yeah.
and they're just like so like, oh, this place is sweet.
All right. Any kind of final thoughts you want to say on the film as a whole, or and all right, like, and then would you recommend this to like casual, like someone that's like a casual moviegoer? Because I think that's like the kind of the problem we run into sometimes with movies like this. Like, I love horror movies. Like, I wouldn't even have thought that you would have recommended this too.
Yeah,
I like horror movies because like and I like things that kind of like I'm very much aware of every single like horror movie cliche and like I can admit when you're watching like a real one it's like that was ridiculous and then having a movie
hmm
make fun of it you're like oh yeah I mean of course play on that because it is fucking silly and it should be laughed at but like would you recommend it to like
yeah.
a casual moviegoer like that wanted something to
Definitely.
like
I mean,
laugh at?
I think that, like you said, that they don't make it so obvious where they're like, hey, you have to have watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre to get that a guy running at you with a chainsaw is
So,
funny.
yeah.
Like, so I think that they let the jokes play, and it really is just a great sort of lighthearted hour and a half that it's a good watch. It's quick. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like it drags or even is too like or rushed or anything like that. So I think,
Yeah.
and also Alan Tudyk does a really good job in anything he does. I think the delivery of the lines and the script is just really, really well put together with a cast that is like we were about to talk about. Like I haven't seen anything from before
Yeah.
or again. So it's
Yeah.
like I would definitely recommend this. It's on right now. It's on Peacock. So
Yeah.
if you want to watch it, you can definitely check it out for that. And it's just like I think it's a really good movie. And it's funny. It's really funny. And
Yeah.
I like you said, like I was just laughing out alone by myself. Like one of my favorite ones too is when he has like this all puffed up face
The bee
from the
stings.
bees, and they're hiding from him. But Dale doesn't want to talk because he doesn't like being like in front of people. And so
Yeah.
Dale with his like he's like college kids like screaming for them like a crazy person with all these bee
Dude,
stings on his face. It's just like
dude, yeah.
it's so ridiculous. It's
Dude,
so good.
if you watch like there's one movie in particular, like it's actually a real horror movie. It's called Wrong Turn. It came out like I think the early 2000s. If you were to watch that and then be thinking about this in the back of your head, like it would make Wrong Turn like unintentionally funny. Like you would just be
Yeah.
thinking like oh, this is exactly what like they're making fun of. Like I think about that one the most because like it does involve a lot of younger like kind of college age kids that are like they
Hmm.
like legit take a wrong turn and end up like being attacked by these like inbred like hillbillies or whatever. But like so so when you're yeah, I know it sounds it's good guys. If you I know there are like a lot of wrong
It's
turn
fantastic. Yeah.
fans, a lot of
Watch
wrong
Tucker
turn
and Dale
fans
vs. Evil first, and
first.
then watch Wrong Turn.
But if you watch Wrong Turn, you're gonna be like, it's gonna make it unintentionally funny. But like that is exactly what they're kind of poking fun at. But then
Wrong
just
Turns.
but then flipping it on its head, which is like so fucking hilarious. Yeah,
Just like
I would.
even some of the ways that they describe him, he's just like that looks just like that Kentucky Fried College kid that's really good over there. It's just some of the ways that they describe him,
Oh
and
yeah,
just the
yeah,
delivery of the lines is so good.
yeah. I thought so too. I mean, I would recommend it. Like you said, it is on Peacock. If you guys have that free to watch there. If not, you can rent it just about anywhere too. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, I would highly recommend it. Then I guess we can talk about what people are doing or not doing. So I'm gonna start with the director and writer. I did not know Eli Craig is the second son of it's Sally Field's second son with Steve Craig. I had no idea that he was related to Sally Field as an actress.
that's wild.
You know, everyone knows who Sally Field is. He hasn't done a ton of stuff. So he did as far as movies are concerned, the last thing that he did was a movie called Little Evil for Netflix with Evangeline Lilly, who of course everyone knows as like the Wasp from Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Adam
Mhm.
Scott. Tucker and Dale was his first actual theatrical release. He has another short film called The Tao of Pong that came out in 2004. And then he also did his oh this makes sense his Sally Field was on a show called Brothers and Sisters, and it looks like he directed an episode of that in 2010. But
Mm.
he also did act a little bit. He was in The Rage Carry 2 in 1999. He was in Space Cowboys in 2000 with Clint Eastwood and Tommy Lee Jones. But yeah, I mean, like hasn't really done a lot since that 2017 movie that he did for Netflix. But I mean, I guess if you're a filmmaker, if you have like one kind of cult classic under your belt, I mean, like,
Yeah, hey,
I
that's
mean,
a win for me.
that's kind of cool. And then what's the last? His name is Alan. I don't want to mess up his last name. Who plays
I say
Tucker?
Tudyk, Alan
I
Tudyk.
think that might be right. He's been in a lot of stuff.
He's so good. He's like a tertiary or the fourth character in a lot of things.
Yeah, he's always that person. Like you recognize his face, and you may not like know his name, but like, you've seen him in
Exactly.
everything from like A Knight's Tale to Dodgeball, A True Underdog Story. He was in The Maze Runner. He's in 42. He's in Transformers, Dark of the Moon. He is like I don't know if I could describe him as a character actor, but I guess like in that kind of realm,
He's
he
not
might
afraid to
kind of
put some
be.
prosthetics on either. He's definitely not afraid to go into the prosthetics.
He's really not, and he is also worked with Joss Whedon a lot. He was on the show Firefly, which you know only lasted one season, but has like a huge cult like sci-fi following for people that thought that show got canceled too soon, which kind of led to them making the 2005 movie Serenity. He was also in that. He's also provided like his voice to like a lot of cartoons and stuff. He's voiced the Joker and Clayface and on Harley Quinn. He's done like a lot of stuff. I mean, he's kept busy, and I think he will continue to keep busy
I
for
think
a
he's
long time.
currently working. He's on Resident Alien right now, which is on
Yeah,
Sci-Fi. I know that's
sci-fi. Yeah.
he's on his current show.
So yeah, he is still working, and then let's see here, our boy Dale. I didn't recognize him at first didn't recognize him, but
Yeah.
he was a show called Reaper I used to watch back in the day. Uh, that was on I believe the WB or CW. Uh, no, the CW, yeah. And I it didn't even last that long. I think it only lasted for 2 seasons. But that's what I recognized him for after I watched this. Um, and he was also on the recently just ended after 4 seasons. He was on the NBC medical drama New Amsterdam as well. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
He's
so yeah,
actually in one of my favorite comedies that I almost chose before this
oh,
one.
okay.
But he's in A Good Old Fashioned Orgy with Jason
I've ne-
Sudeikis.
I've never seen that.
Have you ever seen that? Oh,
No.
dude, it's I might have to choose that
You're gonna have to like
for another one, but
you're gonna have to like back pocket that.
I know I'm gonna have to back pocket it, but it's a really good one. So he's in that. So maybe I should have said that.
And then our girl Allison Katrina, we've already mentioned. She was on 30 Rock. That's probably what most people remember her from. She was on that show
Hmm.
from 2006 to 2013, and she played Flo Fulton on the CBS soap opera The Bold and the Beautiful. She's still on that show actually. Um, and then she is. I mean, this is why I don't think she is afraid to do movies like this because she's done comedies like Sex Drive and then Piranha 3DD, and she was in American Reunion. I forgot she was in that. She did Scary Movie 5. I think she just has like an eclectic, like I think she likes doing comedy. She likes doing drama.
I
I
think
think
so.
she can actually do like a lot of different things. And like I said, hilarious. I think she's much more than like probably most people give her credit for actually.
Well,
Because
I
she
think
has
it
some
also ties into the movie where it's like don't judge a book
by its
by its
cover.
cover.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
she's hilarious, but she's not. She's also gorgeous, and just like
yeah.
Gale, he's not creepy. He's a kind, warm-hearted, lovable
Yeah.
hillbilly.
Because she has some truly funny moments on 30 Rock. Well, actually, I don't think you can just play ditzy without knowing
She's
what the joke is.
hilarious
Yeah,
on
she's
30 Rock.
hilarious on 30 Rock. Yeah, love that show. And then Jesse Moss, who played Chad, uh, a lot of horror movies under his belt. Final Destination 3, The Uninvited, which I didn't realize that he was the guy from The Uninvited. That's another really good. It's a remake, but it's actually pretty good. Um, but yeah, hasn't done like a ton of things. He's also more known as a voice actor now too. He's in a lot of voiceover work for a lot of cartoons I have never heard of, but just to name some: Troll Tales, the My Little Pony Tales, Pocket Dragon Adventures, Mummies Alive, and Billy the Cat. So if you're interested in hearing his voice in any of those, you can
Hey,
check that out.
work is work.
Yeah, it is. But I would recommend The Uninvited. It's actually a really good horror movie and solid remake of I think a Korean horror film that they
Nice.
actually did pretty well here. It has a really insane
Cool.
fucking great twist ending where you have to like go back and rewatch the movie and be like, oh okay, that makes sense. Like because once you watch it
Wow.
once, when you watch it once, you're like, I don't know if that works. And then you watch it again, you're like, oh, it does. Like
Yeah, it
it
definitely
totally
does.
works. But yeah, I think there's some other members of the cast that I wouldn't even know like how to like. I'm trying to see if there's anyone else that might have been noteworthy from it, and I think we might have
I
touched
don't
on
recognize
everyone.
anybody.
Yeah, I mean that might be it, but like they're all very funny here and all worthy of your attention in this particular movie. Um, so I guess I will start throwing you guys some yeah, we decided not to have fun
Facts.
facts. I think these might be
Not
fun
fun
though.
facts.
I don't think there'll be any like
After Marilyn Monroe, we can't call them fun.
fun facts, yeah, anymore. Yeah. All right, yeah, you're right. And then there was that one from Killing Them Softly about Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. I was like, yeah, that's not fun. Um, so yeah, like I said, this film premiered. It was shot in 2009 in Calgary, Alberta. It premiered at the 2010 Sundance Film Festival, but it sat on the shelf for a long time until Magnolia picked it up and released it in limited release in the U.S. on September 30th, 2011. On its opening weekend, it grossed only $52,000 from 30 theaters. Um,
Oof.
yeah, and then it only grossed $223,000 in the U.S., but it did make between 5 to 5.5 million worldwide. So, I mean, it not or not
Break even.
yeah, but I
It's
think
not good.
in the realm of like finding it on like maybe home viewing and then like streaming, I'm
I'm
pretty
wondering
sure.
how like DVD sales were, because they were still somewhat big in the 2010s. So like I'm
Yeah,
wondering
I'd
if
be
it got
curious to know
any
that too. I mean, I'm pretty sure money
Walmart
was made.
bin box
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
wins.
money
But no.
was made eventually. Like, and like, yeah, I mean, I think yeah, it definitely found its audience. And like I said, 85% on Rotten Tomatoes out of this is with 115 survey critics that gave it that score. And their consensus says, like the best horror comedies, Tucker and Dale versus Evil minds its central crazy joke for some incredible scares, laughs, and believe it or not, heart, which is what we said when we were discussing it.
Yeah.
Um, I guess one reviewer that's surprising because Roger Ebert, when he was alive, didn't really like horror movies that much. I mean, he did like the
Yeah.
biggies. He loved Halloween and stuff like that, but he was very critical of horror movies. And he wrote a positive review saying, "Students of the Little Movie Glossary may find it funny how carefully Tucker and Dale works his way through upended cliches in the best way possible." But yeah, a lot of people really liked it. Variety liked it. Everyone thought that uh, confidently executed slapstick humor, just very smart and confident. They kind of wish that more people knew about it, but I think since it came out, I think it
I
kind
think
of
it's
has.
definitely a little bit more, definitely more well known now.
It's like cult. It's gotten this cult following, so that's good.
Yeah,
Good
definitely.
choice. Good,
Thanks,
and
man. Yeah, it's one of
very,
my.
very different from the very
Well, I
serious
tried to go
West
off
Front.
brand. I tried to go a little off brand. I was like, you know what? People are asking if I like horror movies. It's not really a horror movie, but
Yeah,
I'll. It's got horror comedy is its technical name. So you know
and
what?
guys, I've been
I
trying.
gotta start somewhere.
I've been trying so hard not to pick one. And he was when he told me that he was doing this, and I was like, all right, I guess. I mean,
Time to
and you know
pick
what?
one.
I guess it's cool that you went first, and
Yeah, I guess next for me is
we'll see.
Skinamarink.
We'll see. You're like, I'm glad you deleted that text. Is what you're gonna say.
I'd be like, dude, thanks for not telling. Like,
No,
now I'm gonna have to watch it just to
yeah,
either prove you right or wrong.
yeah. Well, it's on Shutter in case you need to borrow that that login too. it's
Oh yeah, borrow that
that's
one
where
as
that
come on,
that's
pimp.
where that's where you can that's where you can find it. All right, so we have questions. Like we said, we deep dive movies for you, and then we want you to deep dive with us so you can get to know us better. Um, Owen gets a bonus one this week because I got a bonus one before.
Nice.
So we get two for him, one for me, and then one for the both of us. Do you want your bonus one first?
Yeah, let's do the bonus.
All right, let me pull up some of my notes. 1 second. 1 second. I thought it was kind of funny because I already know the answer to it. Um,
Oh, do you?
yeah. At Bromageddon on Twitter.
Armageddon.
That's a great Twitter name, by the way. Um, I've always liked listening to your Morbius rant. I want to know if it was scripted or did you just do it off the top of your head?
Oh, there's no, that was not scripted. That was just because Gaius and I had seen that movie, and then we kind of talked about it a little bit in the car, but then we were recording what, like in like a couple days or
A
something.
couple of days, yeah, yeah,
And so we kind of were like, oh, what did you think about it? I was like, listen, I'll save it for the podcast.
yeah,
If you guys haven't heard the Morbius rant, go listen to our or Gaius if you want to kind of maybe throw it in as like a special. Or
yeah. I'll do it
on
like an
the
outtakes
social
or
media.
something. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think you actually recently put it back out there, but no, it's yeah, that was just straight off the top of the dome, just my guttural feeling of just pure hatred for that 95-minute movie.
yeah. It was funny too because we didn't really discuss in detail how we felt about the movie. And we just basically both said it wasn't
We were just
good
kind of making observations.
about it, and it wasn't really like a deep discussion after we saw it. But then we had to sit down and record our thoughts on it, and all I can remember, I still think it's like our funniest moment, like across like the whole like, because I wasn't expecting it, and then I had to give my assessment after you, and I was like, I can't follow that or top that. Like I'm just gonna leave it at that. So I just left it at that. Um, it was funny enough for me to use for when we had our 1 year show, and you were coming back for that. Like that's when I used it again. And
Yeah.
it was like long, so I had to like split it up to like give you like other moments in your like little like sizzle reel. But like that's what it kind of began with, and that's what it ended with. And
Oh my
it was
god,
just
that's
like
funny.
it was just so much fucking anger that came out of you after like
Yeah. It was
so
just I let the passion exploded, so that was not scripted.
yeah,
That was
so
off the cuff.
definitely wasn't scripted. Still probably one of my favorite moments from the show. Uh and yeah, I was like I don't think we even talked about the movie much more after that. because I was like,
I
yeah,
think
I
I think we
can't.
went into we might have gone into Jared Leto a little bit
Well,
more or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
I honestly I gotta re-listen to that episode now.
yeah, it was pretty funny. At Ava Forever, this one's for me. I am starting to write screenplays. I'm starting to write screenplays and feeling a little discouraged. Is there any advice you can give me? Have you ever wanted to quit when you began your writing career? Oh,
Oh wow, that's a
that's
good question.
well, I will say that yeah, I mean, I think so. Right after high school, I got a paid internship at Raleigh Studios, which is Manhattan Beach Studios now. That's the one that's on Rosecrans. Like, Owen might know
Hmm.
where it is. Um,
Yeah.
and you're lucky enough to get an internship, but when it's paid, you feel really good. Like, oh, at least I'm making money doing this. Um, and it was great because you're like on set and you're like getting to learn like how these operations work. But I was also going to film school and then also wanting to write. And maybe the most discouraging thing I ever saw on that studio lot was like you go in this room and there's a bunch of assistants going through screenplays that are like been that they have in the office, and if they're not, they were told if they're not grabbed by the screenplay within the first like 4 or 5 pages to toss it. So you're in that room watching them just toss, and it's like, maybe it gets better, like, like
Yeah.
maybe it's a slow burn. So you see something like that, and it's like a little like, oh shit, like this is what this is
A
like,
reality.
the reality of it. But I will say, I got convinced to, while I was trying to do this, to transition into writing, like doing entertainment journalism. I didn't think I could because I had no journalism background like whatsoever. Um, but a few friends that encouraged me to do it, and I, you know, used to write for like a few blogs, and you're not really doing it for money. You're just doing it because you need to like build up your like byline. So like in case you get an opportunity to make money, you can do it. And that was taking forever. And then that's when I started G Reels on my own. And that took a while too. And I didn't even know what it was going to be when I started it. It kind of just took shape organically and became what it is now. Um, but I would encourage you. I mean, even though I had moments where I did want to give up, I would encourage you not to, because if it's something you really, really want to do, and you're passionate about it, you don't really want to stop doing it. I mean, I will say that like the first year and a half, almost 2 years of doing G Reels, I didn't make any money from it. Like it took a while. You have to like build a following first, and then you can make money from it. And now I can say happily, I can use it's a job, like it's a part of my job, and it lets you other really great opportunity, like writing opportunities elsewhere. So I would just say, like, I mean, anything that you really really love, anything that you want to do, you're doing it because you love to do it. And of course we all would love to be like get paid for it and get noticed for it. But at the end of the day, you're doing it because you really like it and you have a passion for it. And like I would just say like to keep doing it and not give up doing it. Don't be afraid to write for someone that's not willing to pay you yet. If they're willing to just be like, hey, like your work is out there at least, and people get to see it, because like you never know, the right person that will pay you might see it, and then you can like go on to like bigger things. So I think that is the best advice I can give. But yeah, it can be discouraging, and especially, but when you know it's something that you want to do, um, and like I mean, I guess I had moments too, because I was also at the same time doing this, started working at restaurants, and I was like, I guess I could like be a manager at one of these like full time, but I was like, don't really want to do that, and that's not like and I still work at one right now, but like I do it. It's just because it's extra money. I don't have to do it, but like there was a point where I was like, I can maybe just do this instead if this doesn't work out, and
Mhm.
I'm glad I didn't like kind of succumb to that. I'm sorry, I kept like doing what I wanted to do. But it can be a long game. I mean, and you have to be patient. And yeah, I guess that's the best advice I can give on that. But if you
Yeah,
really
from
love it,
from
I
all the
wouldn't stop.
articles, from all the articles and podcasts and different things that I've heard about it, it's just keep doing it. Keep writing. Write stuff that
Yeah,
you think is good. Write stuff that you think is bad. Write stuff that other people think are bad. Just keep writing and don't stop. And the worst
yeah,
thing you can do is just say, "Hey, I want to be a screenwriter," and someone says, "Oh, what are you working on? What have you written before?" And you say nothing.
right.
Or I don't really have something I'm working on. Always be working on something, because no matter what, practice makes I mean, it's a cliche, but practice makes perfect, and it gets you better, and it makes you
Yeah,
better what you do. So just don't give up. And if it's something that you're passionate about, just keep doing it. Even if it's something that at the end of the day, when you've gone to your work or whatever it is, just and you like want to sit down and write some lines, do it. So
Yeah,
that's what I encourage.
I agree, and I will say this too. Like like I stopped writing scripts and stuff when I got into doing press because it's like when you first get into it, it's a lot of work and you're learning like uh what these sites want and you're trying to keep up with everything that's going on in the industry and like that in itself is a job. So it becomes hard to like work on your own stuff. But I've actually in the last like 6 months been able to like I make time to work on my own stuff. Um, and like, and I actually have like faith in it and like want it to go somewhere. So like, it makes the job that you're doing more meaningful if you continue to do what you're passionate about too. So like, if you I wanted to get in the film and I still do, which is why I continue to still write that stuff. I'll
Yeah.
just do both until maybe one day like something takes off. But like, yeah, I mean, you can't really stop. I mean, but I also say too though, you have to be realistic as well. Like you can still go after your dreams, but like if you can't like really live, sustain a living or like anything like that because you're sacrificing so much to do what you want to do. You're just gonna find a balance that you can be able to like, maintain like your life, and still be able to kind of like take a crack at the things that you really want to do. Like I wouldn't
Yeah.
encourage anyone to do it to the point where they're like, they totally are like, oh, I'm broke, I can't do this, I can't do that. Like, no, like that's just not smart. It's not wouldn't be smart to me. And like I know there are some people that do that. I know a lot of people who are like trying to get into acting and they like put all of their eggs in that basket and gave up other jobs and because they were passionate about it. But like I think at a certain point you have to be realistic about what life is throwing at you. I'm not saying that you stop,
Mm.
but you need to. I mean, nothing wrong with having several backup plans. Like it's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that at all. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's the best advice I can give, I think. And thank you for piggyback on that as well.
Yeah, of
Is what to
course.
tell them. And then for both of us, at Mustard of Doom from Twitter, these are great fucking names. Um, oh, that's good. Okay, so they want to start a podcast with their friends. They want to know if there's any advice that we can give. And then, well, it's a twofer, I guess. What do you think makes your podcast work so well between you two? Um, you want to go first?
First of all, thank you. Yeah, first of all, thank you for that question, for
Yeah.
thinking that this podcast runs smoothly. I would say that for any of it, just get started. Like just kind of like with the screenplay thing, just get started and start recording things. I mean, for us, we've had conversations like this before, and like when we kind of just first sat down on the mic, we really didn't know what to expect, and our
Yeah.
conversation just as friends flows pretty naturally. And so like we actually had to kind of find some time to figure out like, hey, like we need like we got to cut this down. I would definitely encourage like, especially if you're thinking about kind of starting something, definitely pick a topic. You got to start something, you got to find something that you guys are both passionate about, something that you don't have a problem like being interested in or continuing
Right.
to research or continuing to talk about. And also have like, as much as it sounds like it's going to be easy to just sit there and talk, you got to have some sort of direction of where you're going to go. I mean,
Right.
when we started, we kind of had some ideas and like a little bit of a layout and rubric on what we were going to talk about that day. Obviously, there's going to be some tangents and things that kind of go different ways,
Yeah.
and you can kind of get off topic, but you got to bring it around and back because as much as it's fun to talk with your friends, I mean, I don't listen to a podcast to just listen to a group of friends that I'm not a part of, just to hear them
Right.
just like hang out. Like, I mean,
Right.
as much as I love the feeling of ours because it does feel like we're hanging out, but we have a direction, we have a goal, we have
Right.
ideas of what we want to do. We want to share that with you guys because we love to talk about one specific thing. And as like the thing is, we could probably do this for like all day every day and just like continue to talk about movies and just record the whole thing, but we gotta
Yeah.
we gotta make sure that we're like we have specific directives. So that's what I would
Right.
suggest is, first of all, just get started, get a mic, practice a little bit and write down
Yeah.
some ideas, give it a trial run and then just record it.
Yeah. To kind of piggyback off that, because all that is pretty much what I was gonna say. But finding the right topic is really important. Like you have to like be passionate about whatever you're talking about. for us, it's movies. There's so many other topics that people talk about on podcasts. You can be a true crime lover. You can be talking about working out. It can be about like different lifestyle choices. It can be about food. Like anything you're deciding that you want to talk about, you, you should have some knowledge about it because like when you're discussing it with your friends or if you have guests or whatever, like I said, it is interesting to like listen to people talk, but you also want to know you have a feeling that they know what they're talking about and they really are
Yep.
enjoying what they talk about.
That's why people want to
So
listen. They want to hear
yeah,
some good points. They want to, yeah,
so that's important. And I also say if you're doing it with a friend, like I think it's important to kind of like define what your roles are as far as like
100%.
why you're doing it, and that's something that like Owen and I discovered as we were doing it because like
Yeah.
the marketing and all this stuff, like it's easy for me to do it because it's tied into my work already. So like
Hmm.
that's already tied into what I'm doing on a daily basis. Like, and so Owen has a full time job, so I wouldn't expect him to be like, hey, like go like post this thing on Instagram. Like it just doesn't make any sense. But you also need to
Hmm.
make if the other person's not doing that, you also need to make them aware that like their role basically as like the talent, the person that like shows up every week and like has like conversations is equally as important because if they're not invested in what you're talking about, then it doesn't work
It's
either.
not going to be fun.
It's not gonna be fun. So like you need to be okay with like, all right, I'm doing this. This is what I bring. This is what you bring, and
Hmm.
being okay with what those roles are. And I also another thing that we've learned too, just communicate with each other like about like
100%.
what's about what's going on with the like what's working, what's not working. Like I not to go into any details about it, but like people know like the show has gone through like a lot of changes since we started, and this
Yeah.
is kind of how like we ended up here with this. And I will say that
Be
like
dynamic.
I think the best thing that kind of happened after Owen left and we were talking about him coming back was like there's this newfound like all right like we're gonna keep the like kind of communication completely open like whatever like is going on or happening like we'll just be honest with each other and then that's it. And I think for me since like that 1 year show in November up until now uh has kind of been the best the show has been like the main show, and then this has been just because it feels like yeah you get like new energy and like you have like a new
It's been
you have a new
fantastic. Like rekindled the
yeah
fire, man.
yeah you
It
have
was
like an
great. And
understanding of what it is like and what you're doing and like
yeah,
and also like encourage each other too. Like I think it's cool like sometimes when I'm not thinking about it and I get a text from Owen being like I just listened to it, it was so funny, it was great, it was this like encouraging each other like to kind of keep going. Like I think what we're doing is really good and like this is I have ideas like whatever it is like just
hmm,
always communicate with each other. I think that's also I think really important as well.
I would also say build good habits because like the first one, I mean here's just like a little tidbit before, but kind of listen to yourself in a recording maybe before, because when
Yeah,
I first started early on, I was saying like and using the same words consistently over and over and over again. So reading has helped me with that, listening to audiobooks and the way that some people like to dictate and like to speak. That's helped me with some of my delivery, slowing down, not sounding like I'm too rushed. That's just with like that comes with practice and also just
yeah,
with just kind of listening to yourself, but also set good habits. If you guys say you're going to do it on Monday night, do it on Monday night. If you can't
right,
reschedule it for that same week, once you
right,
start to kind of build that bad, like, hey, I can't do it this week. Oh, let's push it back. Let's push it back. Or, hey, let's do it this day. Let's do it this day. Or whenever you're free. That can kind of turn into basically something that's going to fall apart. So you really got to set a schedule for something that's going to be a
yeah,
consistent thing that continues to make it an actual like part of your routine. Because if
yeah,
it's not, then it's just going to be like, oh, I'm not really feeling it today. Or it could
yeah,
actually even be a burden where it's like, oh, like, gosh, like, you said we were going to do this. I don't really want to do it right now. But like, if it
yeah.
becomes a routine, then you look forward to it and you know it's coming and you plan around it.
Yeah, and it becomes like a part of your like, and then hopefully when you're doing it, it's something positive for you because like at the end of the day, it should be fun. Like that's why you're doing it. Like I
Yeah,
mean, it's a
that's the
fun
whole point.
it's a fun thing to do. And like into like that one part of your question, like why do you think ours works so well? We're good friends outside of this. We respect each other, and like I think
Yeah,
that has a lot to do with it. And like we can like laugh and be stupid with each other. Like we don't like there's no like uh I don't feel weird being like,
dissonance.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So like, like if you're doing it with like a friend, like some like if you have really good chemistry with, like that translates when you're recording it. I think like
Mhm.
you just take whatever conversations you're having privately, and then you're just doing it in front of a microphone. Like I don't,
Expand it.
yeah, and like I'm not actually thinking about when we're doing it, like other people
No.
listening to it, and so
For the
like
guy saying, was it scripted? I've never had a
yeah,
script ever,
yeah. It's
ever.
like so like
It's great, and the best part about it is like I never would have watched Better Luck Tomorrow or Igby Goes Down unless I had maybe seen it on like a top 10 movie list or something. But
right,
like that's the best part about this is discovering more about your passion that you didn't really do, you weren't necessarily able to do on your own. Like
yeah,
since this podcast has started, I've been able to go into way different realms, and I think I got this question, I think it was last week. Has your view changed since the as an audience member?
how you watch
And
movies.
100% it has,
Yeah,
as I get to view different things because I'm speaking with you on a more in-depth level from your
yeah,
perspective, and you've given me insights that now I get to take away. So yeah,
yeah,
continue to just have a plan, be passionate, and try and learn something new as you're doing it.
exactly.
That's the best part. That's the
Yeah,
best part about it.
I mean, I think I told Owen offline like a few weeks ago, like if you guys were to like have seen us when we first met, like you would have never guessed like this is where we end up like today.
No,
Like that,
no.
like whatsoever. Which is like not getting the details, but it was like 99.9% my fault. But then it like, but I'm glad it kind of like it transitioned into like something really nice and really good, and like being able, like I said, like he's the only person I talk movies with like in depth like this and like
It's
real
great.
life. Everyone else is like through work and like because I have to because it's work. And I guess like Jackson now too, but like like I don't
Yeah.
see him like I virtually
Yeah.
I see him, but like
Hmm.
yeah, so like yeah, I mean yeah. First and foremost, have fun. You're doing it with your buddy or your buddies. And sometimes it's an anomaly. Like I didn't know Jackson before a month ago, and like sometimes you get lucky, and then like you get someone like that, and like he's been really cool to work with too. I would also add, don't pay attention to at least when you start, like how many people are listening. Like, don't get caught up on numbers. Just do it because I didn't know what the show was doing until playlist like sent it to us after the
Send
first
something
few
out.
months. That's the first few months, and like I, I mean, I loved hearing it, but like it was kind of nice to be like in the
Yeah.
dark a little bit, because I think the moment you
To just
because
do it. To just do it and not be like, oh my God, only one person listened and it was
listen to
me.
it, yeah, because like keep in mind like there's so many of these out there. There's so and whatever like topic you're gonna pick, there's gonna be a ton of people out there doing it. So like when you first start, just don't be caught up on like how many people are listening. Just enjoy yourself, have fun. It's like an hour and a half with like some of your good friends, just goofing off, talking about things that you love, and you're sharing it with people who are willing to listen. And then as that grows, it's kind of cool that like people actually care enough to listen to what you have to say. And I think that's kind of like at the point that we've gotten to, because I'm still
Yeah.
surprised when we get good reviews like the ones we got earlier. I'm still
You
surprised when
send me
people.
anytime a new one comes up, you're like, dude, new review.
Yeah. I'm always like surprised. I'm like genuinely surprised because like you think you're just doing it for like us until like other people talk about how
Yeah.
they've listened to it, and so yeah, that's what I would say. I know that was a lot of info, but like take that as you will and just have fun with it and enjoy it like we're doing. We're still having fun with it, and like
Yeah.
I mean, this is episode 5 of this, but I mean, of course, we did the other one for a while together, and like we're genuinely excited
Yeah.
about this one for so much because there's so much discovery and so many movies we can talk about, and that's what has made this show so fun. So yeah, thanks for those were really good, like
Yeah, that
insightful
was a
ones.
great Q&A.
I wasn't expecting those, but thank you so much. That was awesome. I'll be sending out more feelers for questions too. And they don't always have to be like show specific. If you want to learn more about us, that's awesome too as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep them coming. And yeah, another good show, buddy. I really like this one. This was fun. Um, thank you for like. I feel better now. I get to pick the. If I'm still gonna wait before I actually know what I'm picking next. It's not a horror
Yeah.
movie, but actually, I never
Okay.
usually know. But I actually
Coming of
know
age?
for sure. No, fuck you. No, it's not. It was. Shut up. There was gonna be one, and then I was like,
You were,
no,
yeah,
wait.
you texted me, you said you were like, oh, I
It
want to
had
pick this movie, but it's also a coming of age story. I was like, dude, you can pick it if
it
you want.
had
I'm gonna
it
make fun of
had
you,
coming
but
of age like elements in it, even though that wasn't the main point. But whatever. I do know what I'm
oh,
picking, but
God.
but as always, we're gonna see if you guys can guess it uh, on our socials. And
Oh, that's
yeah,
good.
So until next time, Owen, you can sign us off.
Sounds good. Yeah. Hey guys, another great episode. One of just a movie that I always like, and it's just a funny movie, and we got to kind of choose comedy and horror a little bit together, which is good because we've chosen some serious ones, and I guess we had a little bit of comedy with Better Luck Tomorrow. That I
Yeah,
mean, we like to laugh. We like to laugh, no matter what the movie is. If it's serious, we're gonna laugh.
yeah.
But you can always tune in. Thank you guys for the reviews. Still trying to get to number one on Good Pods. We're almost there, but we're climbing.
I mean,
But you
yeah.
can listen to us anywhere that you get your podcasts. Spotify is my favorite. Apple Music, Google Podcasts. Yeah, and anywhere you like to listen to that. And yeah, just please don't keep listening. It's one of our favorite things to do. Huge shout out to Playlist. I can't like speak for Playlist when the question was asked of how do you guys get started. Playlist has just been an amazing
Yeah.
resource for us. And just like an incredible partner. So I just want to shout them out every single time. They're fantastic. So
Yeah.
huge shout out to that. And dude, I can't wait. I mean, now I have to wait 2 damn weeks until I can finally announce my other pick. So
Yeah, I know. That's
ready.
the hard. That's how I felt. That's how I felt after.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why.
It's
Yeah,
that 1 week you're off. It's just like,
yeah.
oh,
I think every time we start with ours, we're always gonna say like, "Finally, it's my turn."
finally. So
It's my
finally,
turn.
my choice. Yeah.
Dude, remember when the show was just gonna be you? I was like, "Yeah, you can pick it," and
Dude,
I'll just do
I
it.
actually think it would have been overwhelming. It would have been a
Yeah,
little bit
you're like
overwhelming. It just every time because it gives me enough time to
to think about it.
actually think about something instead of just being like, oh fuck, now I gotta pick a movie.
Yeah,
So I think it's good.
yeah. I'm glad that we switched off. It kind of makes it better. It gives it's very
Yeah.
eclectic choices. So yeah, as
Yeah,
always,
definitely.
Owen, thank you so much. Thank you for showing up. Thank you
Perfect,
for
man.
being awesome. Until next time, guys.